Hi there, Mercedes owners. Today in our 2015 Mercedes E-Series, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Curt's Class 1 1¼ inch trailer hitch receiver. This is a Class 1 1¼ by 1¼ inch receiver, so it's going to be great for all of your light duty applications, whether you're just going to be using it for accessories like bike racks or very small cargo carriers, or if you're going to be using it for some very light duty towing. Maybe you've got a very small jet ski trailer, or you have a dirt bike that you want to haul around in a little trailer. You should be able to do so with this hitch. It uses a 1/2 inch hitch pin and clip. One doesn't come included with the hitch, but we've got some available here at etrailer.com. On bottom, we have plate style safety chain loops that has a moderate size opening that should accommodate most of your smaller size safety chains. Some of the larger ones may not fit in there, but this is a light duty hitch, so you shouldn't be using those in most situations anyway with what you'll be towing. It features a 200-pound tongue weight, which is the force going down on top of the receiver. That's going to be enough for a 2-bike platform rack loaded up with a couple of bikes. And it also features a 2,000-pound gross towing capacity, which is how much that it can pull behind it. So again, if you've got a small trailer with maybe you just hauling a dirt bike or maybe pulling around a lawnmower, you should be able to do so. Now, as always, I recommend that you verify in your vehicle's owner's manual and ensure you don't exceed any of its towing capacities. And now I've got some measurements for you to help you when deciding on accessories. From the ground to the top inside edge of our receiver tube, it measures about 12.5 inches. And this is important when determining if you need a drop, rise, or raise shank on any of your accessories. And since this one is solo, I do recommend that you have a raise shank on your accessories. And from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our rear bumper, we're measuring about 3.5 inches. And this is important when determining if any of your folding accessories can be placed in the upright storage position without contacting the bumper. Grab your tools and head into the shop with me, and you should be able to follow along and get this done at home with ease. We'll have to lift some components up and bolt them together right away. So to make things easier, so you're not fumbling with too many parts, I recommend you prepare your hardware first. So take the hex head bolts that come in your kit, place conical tooth washers on them with the teeth facing away from the head of the bolt. You'll have 4 of them prepared like this for your installation. We've got our brace here that we're going to be installing first, and there are 4 holes here. The bolts that we prepared, we're going to slide it through the holes. We're just going to start with 1, and then we have a nut plate that goes on the other side of it that it's going to thread into right here. And we want to make sure we get the flange side facing towards where our bolt's going to go in. You have a location right here where it's going to bolt to. So we can slide our nut plate up like this, and then our bolt's going to thread into it. So this is a little tricky to do if you're doing it by yourself, but you can kind of set the nut plate on there to kind of hold it up there. Or you can get an extra set of hands to help you, as it is a little bit of work to fumble with all this stuff at the same time. Then we're going to take our brace now, we're going to lift it up there, and we're going to thread it into our nut plate. And it can be a little bit of a challenge to, again, hold all this stuff together if you are doing it by yourself, but it is doable with one person. Now that we've got it all up there, we just line it up with our hole and then thread it in. If we can get a bolt started, it'll help keep it up there, making it easier to install the rest of our hardware. We're going to go ahead and put one in the top on the other side now. And then we can start our bottom hardware. And we can just kind of hold up on our brace here and then snug our hardware down. We're going to use a 19mm wrench or socket for your upper bolts. You're likely going to need to use a wrench for them. But your lower ones, you can probably get a socket on them, no problem. And we're just going to kind of go a little bit back and forth, tightening them down. You don't have to, but we're trying to get it even and centered on it. We can now take our other section and attach it. You're going to have to kind of roll this around the fascia here at the back on the bumper. And we're going to use the smaller, these are the shorter carriage bolts that come in our kit. We're going to slide it through. They'll fit in with the square hole on our hitch. And then we're going to secure it with a flange nut on the other side. We're then just going to do the same thing over on the other hole here. And we don't need to go crazy tightening these down because we are going to have to take this back off. We're going to be using it as a template to drill out the holes in our bumper. Now you can just hold the hitch up to the bumper, and we're just going to mark on the bumper our 2 holes. Now that we've got those marked out, we can go ahead and drill out the holes that we marked using a 17/32 drill bit. Now if you're having a difficult time getting it drilled out to the proper size, then you may want to start with a small bit and step it up. So that's what we're going to be doing here because this metal's very hard. And we started with a 3/16 and now we're at a 3/8, and then we're just going to step it up from there until we get to our final size. Real quick, this should do it if we're right there. Now this next step here isn't necessary, but can help give you a little bit extra room just to make things a little bit easier on you. There's a bolt like this on each side, and that's going to let us be able to pull out on our fascia just a little bit more to get our hardware fed in. So we're going to remove those bolts with a 10mm socket. The holes that we just drilled out, just to the outside of those holes on the rear of the bumper between the fascia here, you'll have your access holes. And we're going to need to feed our bolts in through those holes. So we're going to use our coiled wire here. We're going to push it up through the hole that we drilled out. We're going to grab it on the other side of our bumper beam. And we're going to pull it down. And then we can start attaching our hardware to it and pull it back through. You're going to take the longer carriage bolt that comes in your kit, as well as the spacer. We're going to place the spacer on first. And then we're going to thread our carriage bolt onto the coiled end. We can then use our fish wire to pull this hardware back through the bumper beam and down through the hole we drilled out. The spacer can be a bit challenging to get into place just because of the limited space we have. That's why we took out those couple of bolts just so we can get it in there a little bit easier. Once you've got the spacer in, then you can pull on the coiled end to bring the bolt through it and back down through the hole. We'll repeat this same process for the other hole on the other side. We can now raise our receiver section back into place. We're going to feed our coiled wires down through the holes. Wrap it around the bumper beam again, and then re-secure it. We can then push up on our receiver end and pull down on our coiled wires to bring those down through our receiver end. We'll then secure it using flange nuts, just like we did with our other carriage bolts. So once we get it up in there, we can just yank our coiled wire off. Be careful not to push the bolt into the frame and thread our nuts on. We can then go back and tighten down our hardware with a 19mm socket. For the horizontal carriage bolts, you're likely going to need to use a wrench to tighten these ones down. We can then go back and torque all of our hardware to the specifications found in our instructions. Now with our hitch fully torqued down, we're ready to load up our favorite accessories and hit the road. And that completes our installation of Curt's Class 1 1¼ inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2015 Mercedes E-Series.